Captain Bob Wells is a retired Navy captain and former national security advisor to former Vice President Dick Cheney. Captain, good to see you. Do you think ISIS can be defeated solely through airstrikes alone without boots on the ground?
It's going to take a lot more than airstrikes and boots on the ground. It's going to take a comprehensive strategy. It's good to see the President's resolve at NATO. In particular, it's also good to see the other coalition of the willing or coalition committed partners that have signed up for this particular threat. ISIS and ISIL should be taken very, very seriously. We've seen already what it's done to the people of Iraq. We've seen the implications cross-border in Syria. We've seen the gruesome beheadings of the two journalists. This calls for a response, and I think the resolve the President has shown in NATO, working with our partner allies, is a good first step.
Let's take a look at the list that you mentioned of our partner allies. Of course, we have Britain, France, Germany, Canada, Turkey, Italy, Poland, Denmark, and Australia, which is a non-NATO member. But if you look at that map, Captain, I'm struck by who's not on it, and maybe should be. How about Saudi Arabia and Egypt and UAE and certainly Jordan? I mean, King Abdullah, he was at the NATO meeting himself. I mean, they potentially can be struck by ISIS before potentially anyone else. Why isn't there a broader coalition? Do you think there will be a broader coalition, especially when you have Abdullah, you know, in the ear of the President of the United States saying, you got to do something?
These are great points, Eric. I think there will be a broader coalition. I think King Abdullah was quite right when he was on the margins there of the NATO summit in Wales, as you just mentioned, talking about a committed coalition. I also think the United States is always engaged with the broader Middle East countries, in particular the Arabian Peninsula countries. We know that the Secretary of State will be heading to Saudi Arabia. We also know that Secretary of Defense Hagel will be going to Turkey. There will need to be a broader coalition. To your first point, though, this needs to be a sustained response, a larger coalition, something that really does need to take care of ISIL, who has not only the capability but the intent to do great harm to all the Western nations and the United States.
And how about Turkey? Can we read them the riot act? I mean, on one level, they've been funding Hamas and this sort of thing. So how do all these cross currents coalesce into one fight with everyone against ISIS?
Well, Turkey is a critically important partner. As you know, it's a NATO member. It's also a close friend and partner with the United States. However, they have a difficult time securing their 500 miles of border with Syria. They also have differing views with regard to how to bring forth peace within Iraq and also within Syria. So there needs to be a meeting of the minds. I think the meeting with Secretary of Defense Hagel and his counterparts in Turkey will go a step further. I also think the President's meetings with President Erdogan on the sidelines of NATO really started a new day with regard to how to basically develop a new coalition, a new thought with this ISIL threat.
Well, certainly we hope that could definitely be the case. And speaking of the President, I mean, his thinking, it seems, has evolved over this year, to put it mildly. You got the New Yorker interview where he called ISIS the JV. Another interview said you can't play whack-a-mole. He goes from that to saying now they must be destroyed. He goes from 3 years ago apparently not wanting to arm the Syrian rebels to now the White House potentially planning that, we're told. How has this thinking evolved? And do you think that if it had evolved further, we wouldn't be at this point now?
I think this thinking has evolved by events, in particular inside Iraq. I think there's a serious recalculation going on in our national security leaders within the interagency of the United States, looking at the what-ifs of ISIL. Also, the need to really tell the American people what's truly going on. President Obama came in as a very idealistic president. In his national security strategy, he always spoke about the world we seek. Well, we have to deal with the world as it is. And we also have to realize that there are many forces, especially in the Islamic world, in the Islamic region, that are still at war with us. I think President Bush had it right with regard to the global war on terrorism. I think it still is. I also think you need to have an incredible network of U.S. capability, multi-party, multinational capability to defeat this particular threat. As I say, it takes a network to defeat a network. Our network's just got to be better.
And it is a war. Bob Wells.
It is a war.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you, Eric.
Adele?
Eric, men on the ground in Benghazi the night of the deadly attack on our consulate.